It's a highly successful group of people because we just go and go and go and go and work as hard as we have to be good. And that's it.
It's hard for Ian Hammond to remember life without wrestling.
I grew up since I was like 7 on the mat, and I was like, okay, this is where I gotta be.
Pushed him and Garrett to wrestle in first grade, I think it was.
We wrestled a lot. We went to everything together.
I'd be like walking to the house, and I can't like walk there without getting put in some type of wrestling move.
They enjoyed wrestling more than they did riding motorcycles. They got into it, and every weekend we were at tournaments, and they came to me one day and said, "Dad, why don't we sell our motorcycles and buy a wrestling mat?"
In his first 2 seasons at Chambersburg Area Senior High School, Ian posted a 47-20 record and was one of the Trojans' top wrestlers.
He had winning records both years. His prospects were great, you know. Ian was a very talented wrestler.
Talk about the big four that Coach Ryan talks about of Garrett, you, Dawson, and Shope back during that sophomore summer.
We were real close. It was like, we're going to change this program around. Like, we want to set the new record books.
In May of his sophomore year, Ian and his 3 Trojan teammates competed individually at the Pennsylvania State Wrestling Federation Championships. A good enough finish would qualify him for America's top national youth tournament in Fargo, North Dakota.
How close were you to the top of your game at that point?
I was doing real well. I already qualified the day before in freestyle. I got 3rd, so it's top 3 go.
The following day, Ian had another chance to qualify for Fargo, this time wrestling Greco-Roman style.
That was the first year he actually had really seriously did freestyle Greco.
He made it to the finals. I was wrestling a pretty good kid, Heath Coles.
He was actually winning the match. Garrett was in his corner coaching him.
He lost the first period pretty close, like 3-1 or something, and was beating him actually 1-0. I told him, don't swing for that headlock, don't swing for it.
I went to go slide headlock, and I just posted my head.
Figuring he had a slight concussion, Ian took injury time, gathered himself, and stepped back on the mat.
I walked away because I was mad that he did that.
It was a pretty hard hit, but you know, I've seen guys hit their heads a lot harder.
I went back in there, and as the match went on, my eyes got blurrier and blurrier, and my wrestling just got worse.
He lost that particular match. The match ended. I went out into the other room.
Well, I came back about 5 minutes later, and he was complaining that his head hurt. And I didn't think anything of it. I thought, he's got a headache. He's done for the day. So I'm like, I'm gonna go grab your water.
After watching part of another match, Garrett came back to find his brother.
It's like, oh crap, I gotta get Ian water. And something told me, I was like, I wasn't even gonna think about it, but I went over, grabbed one, and came back, and I was like, Ian.
The last thing I remember, my leg locked out and it went black.
And there was a terrible flurry of activity going on in the other room, and I'm like, somebody got hurt. I go over and I saw Lori Hammond kneeling beside Ian.
He was having a seizure in the middle of the mat. Everybody else is wrestling around him. Immediately, I told Garrett, call 911. The ambulance was 3 miles away, and it took 25 minutes for them to get there. When they got there, they were EMTs. They went to turn their oxygen on, and their oxygen tank was empty. And finally, then the medics came, and once the paramedics saw the situation that he was in, immediately called and asked us where did we want him flown to.
We got his parents and Garrett in my car, and we drove down to the trauma center in Altoona.
Once we got to the hospital, my mom just started sobbing when they came out and told him he had a bleed in his head, and they didn't know if he was gonna be all right or not.
Ian had suffered a subdural hematoma. When his head hit the mat, Ian's brain was thrust in one direction while his skull stayed in the same place. That movement caused a small blood vessel to tear and bleed into Ian's skull, putting a dangerous amount of pressure on his brain. Doctors told the Hammonds that for 80% of people, the injury proved fatal.
I was almost in shock. It was in 31 years, that was my worst day.
It cut me open like from here all the way to here. Took a plate of my skull out, took a lot of the blood clot out, cauterized it, and I have 5 titanium pins, fused my skull, and they 50 staples down here, which sucked.
How lucky were you to survive?
They said if I would have walked away in the corner or something like that, I'd probably be dead. Like, if I would have walked away and no one could find me, I was in surgery within 2 hours after I hit my head, which probably saved my life.
In June, thankful to be alive and not have permanent damage, Ian visited his doctor for his first checkup since the accident.
You have one question. What was that?
if I could wrestle, open up the floor for questions, and I was like, I have one. He's like, can I wrestle again? He's like, I know I'm gonna be out for a year, but what's the call for me to wrestle? And he's like, he said no, but like in like a doctor kind of form, like, oh, with like the clot and the risk of re-injuring, contact sports out of the question. I got in the car and I just broke down.
Back home, Ian picked up the phone to inform RINE about the doctor's decision.
I'm like, Coach, I can't wrestle anymore. And he's like, Ian, I couldn't watch you wrestle.
But as a coach in a sport that rewards those who reverse negative situations to their advantage, RINE had developed another plan. His idea would still allow Ian to use his love and knowledge of wrestling to win matches. Ian would become a coach, working first with the area's youth program.
We worked real hard to figure out how to get him in a capacity that he was going to feel useful and actually be useful, and this is it.
It wasn't long before Ian embraced his coach's vision too.
Instead of just getting down on myself and kind of just throwing away like I've spent my whole life wrestling and learning the sport, why not just use my skill and help the rest of Chambersburg.
My third year, I wasn't really that good, and then Ian came in here and made me a lot better.
Luke NICHTER gives Ian most of the credit for making him a better wrestler. Earlier this month, he won the Pennsylvania Junior Wrestling Area 9 qualifying tournament with Ian in his corner. Luke says Ian has his approval because he understands how to coach differently between matches and practice.
If I would be wrestling in a match, he would show me on the edge so I would understand what to do. And then in practice here, he would work as hard, but then we would play a game.
A wrestling mom, Jamie NICHTER appreciates the positive impact Ian has on her two sons, in some ways more off the mat than on it.
I don't know really anybody outside of our family that my younger son Tate cares for more than Ian. The kids love him. Not only are we grateful to have him in their corner, but I also see that everybody else wishes they had him in their corner too.
Last year, when he started really getting involved in the youth program, a lady walked up to me and she said, I just want to tell you what a difference your Ian has made in my child's life. And he was a little boy that had a head trauma himself. And he was backwards and shy about his scar on his head and never got his hair cut. And he asked Ian what his scar was on his head, and Ian said, it's my shark bite. The little boy's like, what? And he says, yeah, it's my shark bite. He said, no, I had a head injury and had to have brain surgery. The little boy pulled back his hair and said, look, I did too. And then he went home, and the next week he came in with a buzz cut. And he said, Ian, look at my shark bite. And the mother came up to me the next time she saw me and she said he would never get his hair cut, but because he was self-conscious of his scar. But once Ian told him his story, he now says that's his shark bite too, and he's really proud of it.
Ian's hard work to develop himself as a wrestler, RINE says, is what's given him all the tools to be a successful coach.
When you feel like you ought to be here and everybody that you're wrestling is here and you're still here, you learn things to get yourself there. You learn intricate little things to get yourself there if you are so minded and so determined. And that's him.
Despite losing Ian from the lineup, Chambersburg's wrestling team has accomplished several milestones the past 2 seasons. Shope's 150 career wins is now an individual school record. The Trojans made their first ever team district and state tournament appearances this past year. Most of all, Garrett won state titles both years, an unprecedented accomplishment in the school's history.
Does Garrett's success ever make you jealous?
No, it did. When I was a sophomore, I was like, I'm sick of being Garrett's brother. I'm done being Garrett's brother. I mean, I want to prove myself, but I'm not jealous. I'm more proud. I love telling kids my brother's a state champ, and I could tell them my brother's a 2-time state champ. I mean, my brother's going to Penn State, the #1 wrestling program in the country. Everything happens for a reason, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't redo it anywhere other way. I mean, I've had a lot more success coaching than I've had wrestling.
Still, Ian has regarded himself as part of the team, never missing a single Chambersburg practice or match.
He's just always there. And if that's not motivational to the kids who are still able to wrestle, I don't know what would be.
You could come some of the time and that'd be fine for most people. Why do you always come?
I'm part of this team too, I guess, so I gotta be there too. I feel it's my responsibility to help the next generation, help the kids that are coming up now, and just helping them get better. Like, me sitting at home is not gonna do anything for any of us.
Although he'll graduate this spring, Ian hopes he'll someday be a Trojan once again.
My goal is to be the youngest head coach in the Mid-Penn eventually. I plan on going to Drexel. I want to major in education and come back here in 5 years and be a teacher and hopefully coach.